All right, Danny, you can go ahead and start speaking whenever you want to, buddy.
Yeah, I know what the Iron Sheik is, and I guess it's around 1980. You had this doggone Iran crisis
Right.
situation. He was wrestling for Georgia Championship Wrestling. Well, how I remember it was CNN was something we'd never seen before with Larry King. It was more extensive than ever. And I remember him talking about Ty Yellow Tony Orlando's song. And show a place that would have these hostages released. And I forgot how long they were over there, but I think about 2 years. Well, doggone word leaked in the Georgia Championship Wrestling that he's a legit Iranian. He's a bad guy. Ole Anderson. I don't know what he did, but all of a sudden he went to them and he said, "Thanks, y'all. We got to increase all our security."
So he went to CNN and said that to him? Ole Anderson did?
No, he went to doggone Jim Barnett.
Okay.
We got to increase our security. And he said, because all of a sudden, they were in Georgia, or on the road or whatever, he said, this mug is getting death threats like crazy.
Wow.
And he wrestles like in Mid-Atlantic where Jim Crockett too. It's happening up there. He said, we've got to do something. And I don't know if they took somebody with him all the time, but I would say a lot of the time. But always said, he said, as personal, he's a nice guy.
Right.
And he said, but he does a good job. He said, but I do not want nobody wrestling for me that does that good of a job and gets killed on the job.
Oh, exactly. I remember when it was going on, man, and yes, what's the name? The Iron Sheik. He played that well. He played it well, and he always would call out that Tehran, Iran. He would always speak it. He did not hold back. And I was wondering, I didn't know. I was, like I said, I was young, so I didn't know how people was feeling about that at that time. I was around, 12 years old, 12, 13, when that happened. And, yeah, I remember it. I definitely remember it, but, man, I was just, shocked. I was actually shocked. And I know people used to boo him like crazy. And now that I think back to that time, I'm pretty sure that anytime that he came to whatever arena he came to in the Carolinas and Georgia, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they had to do something. The security was heavy, but I'm pretty sure they sold a lot of tickets to whatever venue that the Iron Sheik appeared at.
And not only that, prior to, and this is another person for another time of another conversation, Killer Carl Cox, who was the trainee of Dick Murdoch. He was a legitimate military man too, but Killer Carl Cox ran a little feud with him a few times. And he would get on TV and talk about how I'm in the military. I can't believe they would let you come out here and just say all the stuff you say, this and that and the other. Well, eventually Dick Murdoch took up doing Killer Carl Cox's gimmick.
Right.
He took off with it. And that's how Captain Redneck was born.
Okay.
Well, yeah, because
I had no clue on that.
He was too old to do it. He couldn't.
Okay.
But he stuck around as long as he could. He taught Murdoch and Jim Garvin the Brain Buster. Okay,
because I remember, Dick Murdoch, back in the 70s, when I first started seeing Dick Murdoch, he wasn't going by that Captain Redneck verdict. I didn't see that until the early '80s in Georgia when I first saw him do that.
Right. Right. But you see, all that really was to reach the grassroots people of Georgia.
Right, right.
Because to be honest with you, you could have stopped at any filling station, quick stop, or hamburger place, or just on the way to an arena, and there were a million real life Dick Murdochs running around in that area.
Oh, there's no doubt about that.
They still are.
Yes.
They still are. But that's the one thing that got that going, and as far as memory goes, I can also remember him. A lot of people forget. I remember co-off teaming with Iron Sheik up here. Ivan,
Right.
and they got into a doggone fuss about something, and then they got into a feud, and nobody turned good.
Right.
But then the sheep left. But I'll never forget that. How people believe in everything and whatnot, and sitting and watching on Saturday night, and they're feuding, and you don't know what to think, who to cheer for or not. And
I remember that. I remember that. I remember that very, very well.
Yeah.
And I was wondering. I was like, who's going to be the good guy? Who's going to be cheered? Because they was both bad guys. So yeah, it was kind of crazy.
Yeah, you could. So anyway, I'm sitting there watching Mid-Atlantic on Saturday night, and with a grandma, and I said, man, look at this. I said, look at these quote-unquote communist bad guys, and nobody don't like them, and it's so violent, and this and that and the other. She was a die-hard believer. She looked at me and says, I can't stand neither one of them.
Right.
So, I mean, no, this is absolutely astonishing. So, I mean, wow. So, by the time he really got his WWF, wow, that sounds like a real sad situation. He is pretty much, even though he was prime time to take the belt from Bob Backlund, if they hadn't done it sooner than that, he would have been pretty well. Sheik might have been past his prime by then.
Oh yeah, he was, and he wasn't. He had a pretty good sized gut at that time too. Which kind of shocked me a little bit. With the shape that he was in when he went up to WWE and he beat Bob Backlund. I was like, wow, man. I said, they picked him at an older age, and I knew he had been around for a long time. And he started late in his career. He started at a later age. He was 31 years old when he debuted, I think in '73. So he was already in his 40s, maybe. He was in his 40s by the time he had started. He won the world title up there in the WWF.
Well, he didn't, and he only held the belt for less than a month.
Right.
I mean, I have seen a show somewhere where not in Philadelphia, but he did defend the belt against Tito Santana.
Right.
Now that was a rare case for the bad guy world champion from that company. I mean, I like both companies having different faces and heels, both as champions, but I felt like they probably could have got a little more mileage out of him than what they did, because I don't know. I'm going to say this, and I hope you don't censure me for saying this. seeing that world title change on Sunday morning, and my brother and I have been fans of any kind of wrestling. And I looked at him, I said, he just lost the belt in 5 minutes and 23 seconds.
Right.
And he don't know what to say. And I looked at him, I said, this is downright unheard of.
Right.
I said, I can't think of many times I've known anybody to try to do that since then or before then. I really don't know.
Right.
That's crazy. I mean, because to me it was, well, how do I say this without being derogatory? To me it was almost insulting that he would win that belt in 5 minutes and 23 seconds. I don't know. This was but on the other hand, the guy that took it was probably the second biggest thing since Hunter had died.
Right. Oh yeah.
So I mean, but as far as something like that goes, I mean, it just, I don't know. You know.
Yeah. Well, he lost the title. Backlund lost the title because dang, what is his name? Arnold Scaling. He threw in the towel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because Bob Backlund wouldn't give up, and Bob Backlund had injured he injured. I think Iron Sheik attacked him when Bob Backlund was trying to swing the Persian clubs, and he actually looked like he was going to be successful. And Iron Sheik attacked him, and it aggravated his shoulder, or whatever, injured his shoulder or whatever, or something, and it hurt his neck or something like that. As far as I'm trying to remember, but it hurt his neck, and he got.
There's still part of that too, right?
Yeah.
The Mass Superstar was in there, and he was beating people, and he beat Eddie Gilbert.
Right.
Quote unquote broke his neck. Seen him out there. Well, he hurt. Superstar hurt back, who was able to come back and succeed. And then, but they were telling him you're not 100%. And then he got that altercation with Iron Sheik.
Right.
Aggravated the interest and stolen through the towel in the ring that they were scared. So he was scared he was going to break his back and break his neck.
Wow. See, I had forgot about that. I had forgot about the other one. You know, you said the Superstar, Mass Superstar.
Yeah.
I had forgot all about that.
And I was curious. I guess Arnold Scollins did, but a lot of people don't remember this. He got went on TV about a handful of times. Arnold had a son that wrestled a few times. Yep. George Scollin.
Okay.
And you could tell that he just didn't have no personality.
Right.
He was just a big looking man. But he was athletic. But I've seen Arnold even on Black and White, which he wasn't a bad world, but it makes you wonder how the world he's over as big as he was.
Okay.
He was kind of like a Paul Jones to here.
Right.
You know, I mean, he wasn't bad, you know, but I mean, it just made you wonder, how does this man maintain his popularity? You know, it's hard, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But I guess it is. Huh? Say again?
Yeah, that's very interesting. That what you were just saying, he was kind of like what Paul Jones was here, as far as his popularity go?
Well, what I'm trying to get is every territory had a pecking order as far as baby faces and heels, and like AWA had guidance go back a long time ago to see some they had from way back years ago. Heels like Moose Morawski.
Right.
And stuff like that. And even Black Jack White Lanza looked funny back then.
Yeah.
This was how you call it? It was just a different world. Yeah, they had one guy on there. It's almost like Brian was making up names. The truck driver, Babyface, he was man saw all across the world. 18-wheeler was Bill Belinsky. I mean, now who the hell gonna show up in a place for an ID and tell them I'm Bill Belinsky?
Right.
They're gonna look at you like you done lost your mind.
Well, Danny, I'm wondering, back then, a lot of these wrestlers, these wrestlers got paid, they got paid, and the majority of them, which we know, didn't use their real names. So I figured they paid them, some of them, just a very few, use their real names. So I'm wondering, when these guys, man, went to certain places. Well, back then, a lot of people used cash. About everybody used cash. So I'm just like, wow, man, wow. But like, you have to show your ID at certain places. You go to the bank if they had bank accounts. I'm sure they had to use their real names at bank accounts. To get bank accounts and everything like that. So, hotel rooms. I don't know how all that worked. But you had to, even back then, you had to show an ID to get your hotel room. But they probably had deals with a lot of hotel people around there and everything, and they didn't get revealed because I know my brother's girlfriend back in the '80s used to work at that hotel down the road from the Greenville Auditorium, and she used to tell us a lot of things, but she never did reveal the wrestlers' names. But she would say she would like say she talk about how much Ric Flair would come in there and spend. Ric Flair had his check, and the hotel will always get on a Sunday or a Monday, early Monday, they would pull out a whole bunch of money, and because a lot of those wrestlers would come in and they would cash their checks up at the hotel at that Ramada that was down the road on Church Street in Greenville, where all the wrestlers would stand. Mostly all the wrestlers stayed there. And Ric Flair, I remember he came in there, and one time, she cashed his check, and my brother said it was $17,443. I said, what? Yeah, back then, which is equivalent to like $49,000 now. I was like, wow, back then. But yeah, my brother was telling me that this was around '83. Yeah, he brought in his check, and she said it was $17,000 for one night of wrestling. Man, I was like, whoa. That was just flat crazy. And she said that was the biggest one she had cashed, but she said she routinely cashed checks that was around $10,000 to $12,000 for him. But I was stunned. And she said Flair will be buying everybody, rounds in the place and everything like that. So he'd run out of money, and then say he would have to cash his check. But she had a picture of it. My brother brought it to me and showed me. She took a picture of the check, and I was just like, unbelievable.
I was amazed that even though she's in business, that the business would let her cash the check there.
Yeah, she must have been. I think she was the assistant manager of the hotel or whatever. She was in charge of the finances. She did. She was the head bookkeeper. I forgot about that. Yeah, she was the head bookkeeper, and she was the assistant manager of the hotel. But yeah,
she had authorization to do it.
yeah, and they had police officers that worked there at the time. You know, they had security. Well, security was heavy too because the wrestlers stayed there on Monday night. Most of the big name wrestlers, and they never had the heels in there when the faces was out, and the faces would come through. It was just the faces, and when the heels, well, they was on two different sides of the hotel. That's what my brother was telling me. They used to be on different sides of the hotel, but they all would come through to cash their check if they needed to cash a check, and they would separate them and make sure that certain guys wasn't into it in that certain part of the hotel, because those guys would, even though, you know, hey, in real life we knew they knew each other and everything, but hey, we didn't know that. My brother said those guys would get into it in the hotel if they bumped into each other. So you know, so the police and everybody would be there. The security guards would keep them apart. Or whatever, or they used to tip them off. Hey, you know, Flair's going through there at this time. Blackjack Mulligan is going through there at this time. Ricky Steamboat is going through there at this time. And Paul Jones, don't need to bump into him because you know they had just split up. You know, they was remember they was tag team. They was a tag team. And Ric Flair, not Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat and Paul Jones got into it in that hotel. They bumped into each other at one time in the hotel, and they got into a little scuffle in you know, a fight. In front of the guests in there, because everybody at the hotel knew who they was. So you know, and they got into a little scuffle there, and they had to, you know, fight it out, and they said the guards let them fight it out, and then they separated them because they didn't want them tearing up furniture.
Yeah, there was a place, and it's no longer there, and it's not been gone long. In Spartanburg, I wonder if they ever stayed there. If you leave the auditorium, you'd pull out to your right, but this place would be on the left-hand side, about a mile up the road, and it had a ton of motels hooked onto it. I mean, our guy must have 7 or 8, but I don't know how many, but the reason why it attracted such a crowd, it was one you could just perfectly see that had a pool on the front.
Right.
You know, not many. You had hit and misses places that had pools and didn't have pools. And there's plenty of places on that little strip that you could eat supper and things of that nature. And even as a washateria, you could see where a guy could go in there on a late night, go across the hall, go across the road, and just go wash your head. Nobody's going to see him in there. The next morning he could swim, get some burgers, get his stuff, get something to eat, and go on up the road. By noon, he's headed wherever else he's got to go. You could see where that had to be kind of convenient.
Right.
Because, I mean, some of these times people are practically living out of a suitcase all the doggone time.
Right.
Bill White told me when he was living, of course, and he said, you know, some people didn't understand. He said, even though I was a full-time guy in the territory, he said it wouldn't be uncommon that I had a little part-time job while I was still there. He said I'd help roof a house or something, or work on some cars or something. He said you'd go there and do that for a couple hours, but you always make sure you practice your car and your clothes are washed, and you head on out of town and do that. But you would let those guys know, well, I'll be here to help you for a day or two, but I can't commit myself to a week or two. Just a fill-in type of job. But you would think that these guys in those days and those eras, you would think that they would have had to really rely on a part-time job to help them when they're on the road so doggone much.
Well, That's true. That's true. I wouldn't have thought that. I mean, the territories made so much money back then, Danny. I mean, and certain wrestlers. I mean, even wrestlers. I heard about certain wrestlers that was on the road back then. I can't think of. It's this one guy that used to be in Georgia Championship Wrestling, a black wrestler. I can't think of his name, but he lost a good bit. And it was this girl in Greenville that used to date him. And she talked about how this guy had money all the time. I can't remember, but he was like Georgia Championship Wrestling's Rocky King. I can't think of his name. But this guy used to lose all the time.
Was it Gerald Finley?
Who?
Gerald Finley.
That could have been. That could have been him. That could have been him. I'm thinking it was. But I know.
Sometimes they get a win on TV.
Right. Let me think. Yeah. I think it is him. Let me see. I wouldn't. Let's see. Just a second. I'm gonna look him up, Danny. But man, let's see. How was he built?
Oh God. Little and 5'4", 5'5".
Kind of round a little bit. Looked like he was round a little bit. Yeah. That sounds like him. Man, he might be a little bit heavier than that. I don't know, but yeah. Let me look. I'm looking him up. I'm getting an opera singer, but that's not him.
He used to do some drop kicks and things.
He did. He did. Let's see. Okay, Gerald Finley wrestler. It's coming up. Oh, but yeah, he wrestled Bob Backlund. Yeah, that's him. Gerald Finley. That is him. Wow. I didn't know he wrestled Bob Backlund.
It's a lot of different people and things of this nature that passed through. I was able to tell you who's passed through, and I was some of them I don't know. I don't remember them being here. But I don't remember Bob Backlund being here as a good guy.
Yeah, Bob Backlund. I don't think Bob Backlund ever came to the Mid-Atlantic. I don't remember him ever coming.
He was a TV guy.
Okay, but I remember him in Georgia, coming through in Georgia, but I do now remember him in Mid-Atlantic too. But I do remember him in Georgia. I remember him in Mid-Atlantic at that time. I can't remember anybody that wrestled him. I just remember him and Ric Flair. But I do remember Nick Botwinkle defending against Ricky Steamboat. Nick Botwinkle, he defended against Wahoo McDaniel here. I can't remember outside of Harley Race. Outside of Harley Race and Ric Flair, I can't remember Bob Backlund defending the title against anybody in the Georgia Championship area.
Way before he had the belt.
Oh yeah, he was. Yeah, he was in the Mid-Atlantic before he had the belt. I was thinking about his championship reign when but he had he came through the Mid-Atlantic area in about 77, I think, around that time. Because I was in like 4th grade. I came from something like that, but yeah, he was in the Mid-Atlantic area around 77. So yeah, I do remember him coming in. But yeah, I thought you was talking about it since he had the championship. But yeah.
They squashed him like a bug.
Yeah.
They beat him pretty bad.
No, talking about when he was in the area in 77?
Yeah.
He was pretty good. He kind of reminded me of Jumping Jim Bronzell. He was really good. Okay. And I thought he was, I thought he was a nice contender. And, young guy, but I remember he was pretty much, they were saying he was from the same school of Ric Flair, and training and everything. But he was really good. Very much a clean-cut American boy, and I was like, wow, this guy's pretty good. But, we had Jim Bronzell at that time, too. And, Jim Bronzell, I knew about Jim Bronzell because him and Greg Gagne up there in AWA. But Jim Bronzell, he was like a ground and pound person than Jim Bronzell. And plus we had Steve Kern at that time too. And all three of those guys kind of like meshed as far as their styles and the way they looked. And and then Bob Backlund just up and disappeared. That's when he went up north. But yeah, I remember that. But I think he had a stop in Florida before he went up north. Bob Backlund did. Yeah. But yeah, I remember Bob Backlund on Mid Atlantic TV. Definitely do. Now that I think about it, but yeah, I was thinking you was talking about him coming through as the champ. As the champ, but as the WWE champ, I don't remember him. I do remember him coming through Mid Atlantic as the WWE champ, but he didn't. I can't remember who he defended against. I think he defended the title against Paul Jones one time in the WWE. I mean, when he had that title, he came through here and he wrestled Paul Jones in one of the places, and they showed that on TV on one of the old 8mm tapes or whatever they used to have. Films. They showed that match. It was pretty good, and Paul Jones, man, put up a really good match against him. So, but that's the only thing I can remember as far as him coming through. But he came through more in Georgia Championship Wrestling, I guess, because it's on WTBS Superstation, and and Vince McMahon Sr. He had a big. He was big into WTBS, and they said it reached up there in New York, and people said, that's a big deal. So they definitely wanted to get their wrestlers on WTBS. I mean, the Superstation at the time. So.
Yeah. I don't know. I can remember not ever being able to see it, but WWOR they carried WWF before USA.
Right.
I was never able to get that channel. But
I used to get I got the WWF before it got on USA. I used to watch it before it got on USA. I don't know what channel it was, but I used to watch it before it got on USA.
Yeah, probably in WWOR,
yeah,
that was like an up north TBS.
Right. Okay. But yeah, I used to watch. I have started watching it like a couple years before it had got to USA. So I was watching it like 2 years before. I think I started watching it like I was in 5th grade, 79, 80, and I can't remember what year it came to USA. That came? I think I was in high school, 82, 83. When it finally hit USA. But yeah, I have been watching it. Yeah.
I remember this. Now, the history tells me different. I would go to my aunt's in Augusta. Saturday night at 6:05 was Atlanta. Saturday at about 12 noon, there was a show coming out of Augusta. Now, why in the world Augusta? I think Augusta used their own TV studio too. It was not the same one as Atlanta. And doggone, I didn't know this, but I've seen clips of it. Georgia also had a 2-hour show on Saturdays from 4 to 6. It was from Macon.
Okay.
This was a pig-sized studio. There were 400 doggone people. And when they put them on, it was always 2 hours back to back. And they put the most competitive preliminary matches on there.
Right.
And a lot of times you'd wind up going to the studios and go to Macon that night at the arena and what have you. But I can't imagine having to do 3 different sets of TVs. I mean, I don't know how they did Augusta. Augusta must tape, but it was a wild show. But TBS was in the morning, they taped. Then maybe Augusta and then Macon.
Now I remember that as far as that Macon thing. I never did really get to see it. I remember it because I mean we didn't get no channel that used to show that, but I remember they showing clippings and things like that. Or they talking about it on the 605 show, and you had the Macon heavyweight champion. The person who hold the the Macon championship was a big deal. And they did a lot of times they didn't show him the Macon heavyweight champion on 605, or if they did show him on 605, they pretty much, it seemed like it was a secondary championship, and they would defend the title around around Georgia in certain places. Usually it didn't get defended a lot in the Omni. It was their main titles in the Omni, but yeah, the Macon championship was it was a big deal. So, but I did not get to see that. What you said, you used to go from 4 o'clock to 6 or whatever. I didn't get to see that.
Yeah, like, there's some Macon on YouTube, and you'd just be surprised. I want to thank Freddie Miller might have been the commentator for Macon.
Yeah.
But Gordon did Augusta and Atlanta, period. But I just, it just makes you think, can you lay those guys 3 sets of TV? I don't know. Augusta and Atlanta is close. But I don't know how far Macon is from the rest, because
right.
You turn around to that and into a house show that night, you done messed around and did 4 different things. Time you get home, you probably can't even see straight.
That's true. Yeah.
That's almost, and you see what was amazing is they should have put on Sunday. They should have split that up so they had it like on 5:35 on Sunday, and that was just the best of it. So they should have somehow did an hour on Saturday, 2 hours on Saturday, and the other on Sunday. Because God, this is so much to absorb and to watch and to remember. And I didn't get to see it, but I know that when Robert Bullock and Ron was there, they tend to, I would have to say it's on account of the whole Royal Welch influence. They would tend to bring people out of the Gold Coast, Southeast, Knoxville, Memphis, Mid-Atlantic, and their own Georgia people. So sometimes you could get on there and you would say, well, and they wouldn't let them in, let them out, but you could tell they were always rotating who was in and out, like Jimmy Golden and Stomper and Tony Atlas and King Batera, people like that. They might be here 3-4 months or so. And they always had different people to pull them from. And it's funny because Brewers really never messed with Crockett, and Crockett never messed with them.
Right.
But you would have thought as close as they are geographically, they ought to trade more talent with each other than what they did.
Well, that's true. I didn't understand why they didn't do that. Maybe it was the style of wrestling. I have no clue.
Well, it could have been because Ronnie Welch owned Alabama and Ron and Robert owned Knoxville, and so therefore they were quicker to trade with one another than somebody outside of the family.
Right.
But I do know that they did go through Crockett sometimes to get somebody like a Abdullah or Flair, occasionally Dusty, or Holly Race, of course, was everywhere at all times.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
But,
all right, Danny. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, we're going to get together and talk a little bit more about this wrestling stuff, man. But yeah, I'm gonna have to end up ending this conversation on wrestling. I need to get out here and I'm supposed to have been getting my phone fixed, so let me go out here and do that. But yeah, all right. Well, we're gonna end this. I'm just gonna end the conversation.